Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining and welcome to the February 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Open Space Committee. I'm going to begin by reading a brief paragraph about the remote nature of this meeting. In accordance with the provisions allowed by Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, the February 2nd, 2022 public meeting of the Lakeville Open Space Committee will be held remotely. To view the meeting in progress, please go to facebook.com/LakeCAM. The meeting will be recorded and available to be viewed at a later date at LakeCAM.tv. I'll begin with a roll call of Open Space Committee members in attendance. I'll see your name on the screen. I'll say your name and you'll indicate your presence. Liz Nash.
Here.
Gary Flaherty.
Here.
Fred Ferdima.
Here, finally.
Mike Schroeder.
Present.
And is Brian here?
I don't see him. I left a message.
He's not in yet. I'll let you know.
All right. And myself, Adam Young, present. And as far as non-committee members in attendance, we have Mark Resnick, Lakeville Town Planner. Hi, Mark.
Hello. Hi,
And-
everybody.
And we also have Joan Morton. I think at least she was here. I think she may have dropped out, but I think her intention is to be here today. We do not have any prior meeting minutes today to go over. So with that, and I want to be sensitive of Mr. Resnick's time. So we'll start just by asking him to introduce himself, and we'll talk about how our committee can benefit from some of his expertise.
Well, hello, everybody. I've been your town planner for a month now, so there's a lot to kind of get up to speed. And so I'm here and available to help your committee out with putting together the plan or any technical assistance that we need to do so that we can get it submitted to the state. I have worked on 2 other plans. It was a number of years ago. I put together a plan when I was in Salisbury back around 2000. And then, of course, when I was in Brockton, I did their plan in about 2010 or 12. So I'm somewhat familiar with this. I haven't reread the guidance document or really read our plan here in Lakeville yet. But I did want to at least attend your meeting, see where you're at, and then talk to you about what we can provide for assistance, like you were just mentioning, coordinating the map updates with Serped. That's clearly something I can do, and whatever other types of things you need.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining, and I think it's going to be a great collaboration. I'll go through as the agenda has it. We'll discuss the sections of the open space plan in sequence, but in chunks. You don't need to go through each one of them. And we'll just get some brief updates and talk about any next steps associated with that section. So I have here sections 2 through 5, which includes introduction, community setting, environmental inventory and analysis, and inventory of lands of conservation and recreation interest. Has anybody worked on this section in the last month or so and want to discuss any changes they've made?
What do you think, Fred and Liz? Have we worked on it?
We worked on it.
So, I mean, nobody's done anything on section 2 because that really is a sort of that's something that has to be done after everything else is done. And we, well, what do other people have to say about this?
I sent out the spreadsheet that goes through each of the sections and what I thought, at least where we were in terms of what's been done and what hasn't been done. A lot has been completed, and I think a lot still needs to be, somebody needs to check it besides Mike and I, and I guess Joan has provided a good part of it too. But for example, the water resources section, I think the tables we need to verify, although I think, Mike, you said you got that, huh?
Yes, I got that from DEP, who is in charge of the of that.
Okay, so I'll cross that off. So that's complete, the water resources.
You're talking about the uses of water from the ponds by the cities, right?
Yeah, section 4C, right.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so that's done. there was an interesting thing, if you want to go into it, I don't know how much time you want to spend going into the details of what's going on. But section 4, the environmental inventory and analysis, has a map in it. And it's in the body. It's not one of the classical maps that takes up the whole page. But in that body, there's a legend, and they talk about the different kinds of soils, and they refer to them by cities, which just confuses the heck out of me. Is that correct?
Yes,
Anybody remember this?
yeah, soils are named mostly from the community they come from.
Really? That's
Yeah.
very, if that's the case, then fine, then it's done. It just, to me, it seems strange to define a soil as a city where it comes from.
If you look up the soil series description, it'll actually tell you the coordinates, what street it was named, the exact area, longitude, latitude, everything.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna have to, I'll go offline on that instead of trying to educate me, which is not a good thing. So we can leave that if everybody thinks that's fine, it's fine. I
You
will
can
not
ask
do
me
that.
on the side sometime.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to do that. So other than that, then that section is complete as well.
Fred, I want to pause just 1 second. Can people see my screen with the Excel sheet?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Fred, would this help to kind of walk us
Oh,
through
yeah.
what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
if you scroll up, because we'll see, we had 2B, that's not started. Well, we know that. Community setting, a lot has been done. It's in process. I think Mike is still there. There's some red lines in the one that you sent out. So I just put that that's in process.
Fred, just let me say, what is written in red are my revisions. Those are not questions. If it's in green, well, part of my problem was there were some things that were in green that, because I had highlighted, I can't get rid of the highlight. I don't know how to do that. So there's some things that are in green that are okay, and I don't know what to do about that. But everything that's in red was a revision that I made. That should be updated. I mean, if somebody finds something wrong with it, then that's one thing, but those are revisions that I made according to common knowledge, recent common knowledge, or research that I did.
Okay, thank you. I just say this because what Mike has done, she's given data to Mark and other people as to complete as far as we know. And when it was in red, I thought it needed some work to be done. So that's why I put lots done. So I'll change that to complete. But remember that when we say complete, it means that it's what Fred and Mike and Liz agreed is complete.
It's a draft.
Right. So from that perspective, it's been updated as far as we all know. 3B is completed. 3C population characteristics. Mike, I sent you a whole bunch of stuff that I did on that, and I don't know if you've included it in what you sent out to Mark or not.
I can't, to tell you the truth at this point, I can't remember if I sent them a revised one. No, I did not yet. I was waiting for this meeting. But
yeah, I recall what you said. You had trouble lifting that whole set because it's like 2 or 3 pages and putting it into the document. So maybe we can send that off to people and let them comment on it. And Liz is the person that, as far as we can remember, is trying to organize this whole thing into a reasonable document that can be all put together in a nice fashion. So if we can, I think I sent that. Liz, you should have that too, right?
Fred, if you're talking the chart that we got from Nate, I put in, but it only goes in as something that you click on to see it. I could not figure out how to actually copy it and then to copy and paste it.
Okay,
My computer just wouldn't do it.
I think Liz can do that.
But if
it's not just right. It's not just that. I pulled out an awful lot of graphics from the websites and put them into the document, pie charts and bar charts and that sort of thing. that show population characteristics. So
I
that,
saw that, Fred, and I just wanted us, if we do have to very carefully indicate the source of that, because I checked out that source, and they're considered reliable, but not perfect. So I mean, that was what I saw as a review of that, because that is not that's not a state source. It's not a town government source. We used essentially what is a commercial source for that information.
it actually came from the census.
It was a company's interpretation of the census. It is not government. It was not generated by the government.
The data was generated by the government. They just put it in different formats. Well, here's the
Yes, but
question.
I still think we have to make sure that we give the source of those graphs. That's all
Mark,
I'm
can you
saying.
comment on that? Mark, any comments on that?
I haven't seen, I mean, if you can just confirm that the numbers are correct, then you can include it.
Mark, why don't I send it to you?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we can just compare it to the census data, and if it's a nice looking chart and you want to include it, then that's fine, as long as the data is correct, so.
The interesting thing about the data is some of those same charts and pie charts are in the Lakeville master plan.
Exactly the same?
Pardon?
Exactly the same?
Exactly the same, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, we'll take a look at it. The growth and development patterns, I think we still need help from somebody who can help us with that, because I don't know enough. And there's a bunch of blank places in that area. For the environmental, we talked about that, so we can get rid of we can say that's complete, Adam, for the geology and soils and topography is complete. The landscape skyscape character, I think Mike is supposed to be doing something on that,
No.
right? Mike Renzi?
Mike Renzi, and I haven't heard back from him in a while. So
Okay, so we're still waiting on that.
And yeah.
And the water resources, I guess we
what
can.
I just told you
We
is
can say
okay.
we can say
Yes.
that's complete because
Yes.
Mike said she's verified that with the towns. So that's done. Wildlife vegetation is complete. Fisheries and wildlife. You know,
Joan, correct me if I'm correct about if I'm wrong, but your name is attached to that one, and I think whatever mistakes are in that one are my fault, not yours. Am I correct that that is not a section you worked on? Joan, you there?
I don't think she's there.
Okay.
I don't think she's worked on it. You're right. But I think somebody needs to read through that. For example, one of the paragraphs states that 2 eaglets were seen in 2009.
That is something that needs to be added. I've had a question out to Nancy Yates, and she hasn't gotten back to me yet, and I need to nag her because
Okay,
she's the
so
one
that-
that would have an update.
So that comment, lots of red areas need checking.
Well, no, they're not, but the red means that those are revisions that I have made.
Okay, so then we can modify that to say facts need to be checked. Or updates. Not
Okay,
updates.
if you're going to go out in the woods and see if you can find all those critters, then more power to you.
No, I agree with that. But there's, for example, it says a list of mammals seen in Lakeville from 1976 to 2009 is included in Appendix I. Nothing's been seen since 2009. I mean,
well, that is the list that we have. That was a list that was created by Natural Heritage or Fish and Wildlife. I don't remember which, but we don't have an update of that list. Now, you asked Natural Heritage for some information, and what they gave us was a reference to I mean, they essentially referred to what was in the previous plan. So I thought we just needed to go to that. Now, in the text, it does mention that we have we now have increased sightings of a coyote, which back in 2005 or 9, we didn't have that many. And fishers have been seen in Lakeville. And I think those were the only modifications. But that's added in the text.
So, yeah, I've been contacting the guys at Fisheries. You want me to double check with them on that?
Well,
if I
you
can
could
get an
ask,
update.
well, if they, I'd originally asked if possibly Aaron, oh God, what's his last name? He's the fisheries and wildlife representative for our region. I can't think of, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of his name. His first name is Aaron. I'd wanted him just to read over it, but
That was exactly my point, is to get one of the people from Fisheries to read over this section and either add or subtract or delete, update it. I got a letter, this happened back in 2020, I think, maybe not that far back, a letter from the Fisheries listing all the fisheries. And I have that in the file.
I did not see that letter. What I did get from you was a revision of the section on herring. And I incorporated all of that into the text.
Yeah, okay, I'll drag that letter out and put it back out to the group. And if you want, I'll contact Fisheries and ask them to please take a look at this and see if they can't at least read it over and tell me it doesn't need an updates, or here are the things that we should add. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Scenic resources and unique environments, I think is complete. I think Joan and Mike did that. No?
The scenic, well, there was is that where the survey was to be, of the survey of the of scenic vistas? I don't know that Joan has done that yet.
Is that the section that it's a vistas? Yeah, you're right. We haven't done that. Sorry, that's wrong then, Adam. We need to, needs, that's the scenic vistas need update.
Right, yeah.
But that's, as you pointed out, Mike, at one time, somebody needs to ride around town and see if which ones still apply.
Right, Joan did say that she was waiting for the spring to do that. It's not.
Yeah, probably a good idea. So environmental challenges is complete. Inventory of land and conservation, I think, is complete.
Okay.
This open space and recreational facilities, some numbers need to be checked. I need to identify what numbers. Let me dig into that one a little bit.
So let me pause here just for a moment. I want to share something that Nate Darling had sent to me after last month's meeting. See if I can find it on my screen. Too many things open. So he sent me this link to MassGIS, this mapping tool, where it actually shows the open space areas in town. So for example, and I can zoom out or zoom in as needed, but we have labels here, which will do better if we're zooming in. And we can add by level of protection, where it looks like the dark green is in perpetuity. Red is none. I'm not entirely sure why there's red and there's uncolored. We have term limited, which I'm not seeing much of. I guess it's not super important to belabor the different types, but you can see where they are in town. And I'm wondering if this is going to be useful to filling out the inventory of open space lands, or if you think that that's pretty much done and you've already essentially grabbed that, Fred, or maybe this would be useful for the mapping or the appendix.
I think that would be very useful for the appendix. I think the one that I think we need to, let me see where I am. See, the land inventory is mostly tables 7 and 8 that need updating. We just have to go through that. I took that action item, what, a year ago or so, and I've been slowly poking at it. but every time I look at it, some new thing comes up and I don't know how to approach it. But and hence that was the reason why I sent the email out asking if all the land that's in chapter 61 should be listed as open space, since it's undevelopable, or it's somewhat, it's undeveloped, because it's protected under chapter 61 by legislation, correct?
Mike?
So,
No,
I'd like to address that if I could.
yeah, it's really not protected land. It is a tax status. It can be removed from the chapter 61 or 61B for recreational land, and and converted to other uses. So it is not really protected.
okay, so we shouldn't include that as open space.
Well, wait a minute. There are other parcels listed in that chart that are also not protected. That chart, but the reason why the chapter lands, chapter 61 properties are not listed is there are too many of them. There is a summary of the properties as of spring 2021 in the text, and an explanation of why they're not listed in that table. Fred, I would like to ask if maybe you and I could just sit down, you and me, with that table, because I'm familiar with most of those properties, and if it's not clear to you why they're in that list, then we need to make it clear, because people looking at it and so you and I need to look at that list together.
Okay, no
But you don't
problem.
go crazy trying to figure them all out.
No problem. We can do that.
I do believe that there should be a way of getting the chapter 61 properties on this. Maybe at some point we can have Nate himself come show us how to use these tools better than I can.
Are you talking chapter 61?
Yes.
All right, then I need to tell you this. I have in my possession a document that is all the chapter properties as of the spring of this year. And when I talked to the assessor's office, they said, we kind of made a deal that if somebody from the open space calls them every year, they will give an updated list. And that list can be then posted as a revolving appendix. That probably makes the most sense to do, because it's right. It's about 4 pages long.
Okay, and I'm just reviewing some communication I had with Nate last month, where he says he believes we do not currently have a layer in this tool that shows chapter 61 properties, but he thinks it would be possible. And so for someone with that capability to build a data layer where that information, as it's updated yearly, could be presented on this tool, so we could easily grab it and not have to, scrap around for a spreadsheet.
One further comment dealing with that. We specifically asked Serpent if they could provide for us a map like that could be changed. It would be like an assessor's map with all the properties, and then when something came in or went out of one of the chapter program, that we could it could be updated. And they said that they could do that, but of course that's an additional map and it would cost money. So we don't know if but they said they could do it.
Okay.
We had a conversation.
Right. And it's possible that we might want to talk to Brian Day on the Finance Committee. Apparently, this is something that he might be in support of. So perhaps we can get creative and find a way to have this, be a thing that we can reference going forward. But I think we'll take that offline and maybe have some of that communication. And I will bring back the spreadsheet and we'll kind of continue on. So those tables still need to be updated, but any other comments here before you were moving on, Fred, before I interrupted you?
No, I think that we talked that Mike and I are going to get together and work on that.
Okay.
I thought there was some numbers in that open space and recreational facilities inventory that needed to be looked at. Mike, maybe you and I can take a look at that while we're at it.
All right, okay.
And then we
Next
didn't,
is,
yeah, we haven't gone through,
This-
I
this-
don't think anybody's been working on those.
section 6 is, I think, 1 page long, and I'm not sure if we're missing something. Let me see if I can pull it over here. This is the 2012 version, so this is completely unedited. But
We're not there yet.
I hope you don't get whiplash as I try to scroll through this here, but
Resisting the temptation to try to move it. It's way down.
you think it's way down?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I was looking at this yesterday. Let's see. So this is chapter 7, where these paragraphs begin, and chapter 6 is that.
Yeah. That's why I say, should we use what's in the current plan?
I don't really know what the purpose of this is, to be honest. It doesn't seem like it's adding all that much value. Mark, in your experience, is this something that has been kept short at Brockton and Salisbury, or is this?
I can't recall what we had written at the time, but you know, this is, yeah, just describing the process. So this doesn't have to be particularly long, which is probably why it was really short in the previous one. It's just describing the process. Maybe we can expand on it a little bit, but and same thing with the goals here. It's just a blanket statement. So, I mean, not everything needs to be super intense and involved, but
Okay, well, this will be the shortest section then for sure.
okay.
Section 7 is a lot more involved. So the first, several pages of this section is going through the survey. That survey has been redone and rewritten, so that survey part is done. But then when we get to the end of the survey section, it starts talking about other details. And here I'll reference the Excel file where it's the summary of community needs and resource protection. So it's not the survey stuff, it's kind of everything that comes after.
Yeah. We haven't started tackling that yet.
Right. Trying to remember what my thoughts were here. Now I could take the lead on this, but I also know that this is in some way going to reflect, as Mike was saying, some of the work in previous sections. So I'm not entirely sure the best way forward here. I guess I could just take a stab at doing the first draft between now and next month and send it out for revision.
Wouldn't a lot of this come from that master plan too, that they already did? And the master plan was pretty comprehensive, asking people what they wanted to see going forward.
Right. There will need to be a good amount of changes just due to the, whatever has happened between now and then. But yeah, we can pull from the master plan. So I'll take a stab at editing this between now and next month, and we'll have something more concrete then. And then after that, we have goals and objectives, which is quite short. You can see it. I believe since there's nothing down here, it's just simply not been started.
Right, correct.
And so here, since it hasn't been started, I guess there won't be much for us to say, other than, is there anyone who has the opportunity to work on these sections, or maybe I'm going too far? Should we get everything done before we get to the goals and objectives? Does that make more sense?
It does to me.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think that's one of those sections where it seems like we ought to have the whole group together. And hopefully, if we get to the point where sometime soon, we'll be able to have a real meeting, that'd be the place to do that, where we can lay out all the documents and maybe go to a whiteboard or something like that and create those goals and objectives.
So that's absolutely true. One thing we could do relating to the 7-year action plan, though, is I think it's probably pretty clear which of these things have and haven't happened yet. So even though this hasn't been started, I don't think section, what did I just say? Section 9, the 7-year action plan.
Yeah.
Of course, some of it will need to be in waiting, but we should know which of these things have and have not been accomplished by now.
Yeah, but that's what I say, we need to go, everybody needs to look at those and together decide. Mark has probably got worse of a problem than I do. I've only been here, Mark, for 2 years. So.
Oh, you're practically a native.
We've been here a little shorter, but we need to go through that, and people who know the town
Right.
needs to know whether, oh yeah, that was done last year or 2019 or 2015 or something, whatever.
Well, I hate to throw this out, but I think that most of the stuff on that, in that chart was not done. I'm sad to say.
Okay, well, then we need to decide, I guess, that as a group, do we need to remove it, saying it's impossible to get some of these things done, or leave them in as for a goal for the next 10 years?
Well, we can't spend too much time talking about the action plan until we have done the previous chapter,
Right.
which establishes the goals.
Right, and that's, again, that's what Adam was saying, that maybe we need to finish up what we started to the point where we can complete everything that we've done
Until that point.
up to that point, and then sit down and start working on that.
I would like to throw this out. I don't think that we have to have the background with all the little, with every T crossed and every I dotted before we start on the goals. I think that of the things that have not been done, most of these are going to be relatively minor. We know what the general picture is. We know in general what people have said they want. So I think we can start establishing the goals. The thing of it is, we're going to run, we're running out of time, guys. I mean, we're going to lose some big opportunities. And we
Well,
just need to move.
We have to admit that COVID threw a big monkey wrench into our timeline.
It did, but
Much easier to get all together in one room and spread out and just pull it all together. But we've been working on it as much as we can. I think we just need to continue. Let's not give up.
No, we're certainly not giving up. We have more, capable minds today than we ever have at this point for the project. So that's awesome. I'll kind
no
of.
way am I saying throw up. I'm just give up. I'm saying no. I certainly
have for dinner.
No, I'm certainly not saying give up. What I'm saying is that we don't need to know, for instance, for the wildlife section, what Nancy says about the eagles before we begin to come up with goals. We don't need to know there's just some detailed things that we haven't put in yet, because we know the general trends. And so
I'm a little confused. Where do we get our goals from? And I know why I got on the open space committee, but I don't understand where we get the goals for an entire town as far as open space is concerned.
Read what people have, go back to the survey and read what the goals have been over the years. They're not going to change that much.
Yeah, the goals and objectives generally don't change that dramatically unless there's a huge shift in the community and its perspective on the town and the open space or recreation needs. So the goals and objectives, although they should be looked at and revised, it shouldn't take a long time. The item that will take longer, I believe, would be the 7-year action plan.
Yes.
Trying to evaluate what has been done, what hasn't, which things on there still need to be done, which things are still desirable, and are there new things that aren't on the action plan? So that's going to take some meetings with the Conservation Commission. I don't know if there's a representative on this committee, but that'll take some.
Fred.
But Fred, okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Same thing with the Recreation Committee. Do we have a representative?
Oh, no.
Okay. So in perhaps the Board of Health, perhaps some of these other boards and commissions that I work with. So that is kind of why I think the action plan will take a little longer, but there's no harm, I think, in like you say, in at least trying to get tackling the goals and objectives right now, because I don't think that'll be quite as difficult to do. And then the other thing is, once middle of March rolls around, right now I'm spending a lot of time familiarizing myself with the zoning and putting together some changes. And deadline for submittal for town meeting is let's say mid-March. So after that time, I'll have time to begin to review the document, help make some final edits. I'll be able to coordinate like the maps as we move forward at all, and then try and help work on the action plan.
That'd be excellent. We'd really benefit from your help. So,
Mhm.
and mid-March is not that far away. So,
No, it's not. Give
Well,
you
is there
time to see all the other sections.
Is there something we need on the, is there something we wanted on town meeting for open space, or are we basically just hoping that the CPA stuff is gonna take?
well, that shouldn't be a town meeting. That'll be on the ballot, and Mike, you can speak to that more than I can.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But so we don't have anything in particular, right?
No.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm willing to sit down with anybody if we want to take a look at goals and objectives. Just a couple of pages, and I think, Liz and Mike and I have been getting together in the library. We could get a bigger room in the library and spread out and try to create the goals and objectives. Probably do it in a day.
Yeah, if we can get everything done before that, then we'd be ready for it. So for example, I think some of the stuff in the survey will directly impact the goals and objectives in the action plan. And I think I sent that to you, but I know it hasn't been integrated with the text. So it seems like between now and in mid-March, when we have access to Mark's expertise, we can kind of get everything up until that point and then go from there.
Okay.
We're working on things like the goals and objectives. I would like to throw this out. We're not going to base our goals and objectives entirely on input. We joined this committee to have an influence in the town because we believe in the value of open space. I think that's true of all of us. And so I think that we are allowed to use our own personal philosophies a little bit to create the goals. They should reflect what the town wants, but I do think that we here are supposed to act with wisdom that is personal to us.
Well said.
Agreed. I mean, why are we on the open space committee if we're not trying to steer the town toward more open space?
What's left of it.
I know. I was looking at that map, Adam. It's pretty dramatic when you go very far out and come in, you see how many residents there really are in Lakeville and how little open space, but.
Right. All right. So we spent a good amount of time on the plan. I think the most we've ever spent in one of these meetings on the plan. So that's great. We'll keep having the progress snowball forward, and you'll get section 7 from me between now and the end of next month. And we will, we'll be ready for a really valuable discussion next time.
Yeah, Mark, Adam, you want to put up the a list of figures?
Oh, sure.
Because I would like to talk to that a little bit.
This here?
So there are sections in there, I think there are no change. Regional contacts, the zoning map. I asked about zoning. The zoning hasn't changed since 2012. So that's the same. The land use map, there's a land use map in the town master plan.
Yes.
I think we should just use that. It exists. I checked on the sewer and water map, and I asked Nate, and Nate said there may have been some additional water lines put in the town, but I don't know. Mark, that might be something you could take a look at the sewer and water map.
Yes, I've already been trying to figure out who controls or has a map, comprehensive map of water and sewer in the town. So I've talked to Serpent about it. They have never been tasked with producing an official map. So I've got to try and track down. We do have a GIS system here in the town that's primarily used by the assessor's database, but there may be layers and for water and sewer that might be more current. So I will look that up for you.
Okay, great. Surficial geology, the soils map and the landscape unique features map. There are no changes to that as far as I can tell.
Those don't.
The late night sky survey map is just a map that shows areas of the map that you could look at the sky from. And I don't think that it covers the whole town. I don't think there's much change that needed there, but somebody might
Mike,
argue that.
yeah, well, there would be, because of any any building that's happened that's added light to the town is going to change a night sky map.
Well, but this doesn't change, this particular map, I don't think tells you how good the light is, just tells you where they've looked at the light, the area. Take a look at what the map really is telling us. I don't
Alright.
think it's telling us, this is my opinion, I could be totally wrong, by the way. My wife tells me I'm wrong all the time, but I think it's just is the
Then
area.
she's not on the committee.
I know it. Well, some of the stuff came through, Mike, remember, came through from Paula?
Yes.
So, I don't know, any rate, but it's worth a look at. If somebody wants to check that out, that's fine. But look at what that map is trying to tell us.
Rather than say that
Water-
that map is completed.
Water resources map, I don't think has changed. The next few, I've contacted NHESP and they will update that map, the next two maps. I've also contacted the Nature Conservatory. They will update that map for us and NHESP will update the vernal pools map.
That's
So those are
awesome,
all-
Fred.
Those are all being worked on by those people. I'll try to stay on top of them, but I told them there wasn't any emergency that we didn't need it tomorrow, which may tell them that, well, they got months to do it, but hopefully I'll keep on top of those guys. But they agreed that they would do it for us without asking for any money, by the way. The open space map, can we use the town master plan map? Take a look at that. I just put that down. I think people need to look at it. And then the action plan map, obviously we can't do that until we come up with what the goals and objectives are, I think. So I think that we're in pretty good shape for the maps, really.
Okay.
No,
Hey, thanks for what you've done on that, Fred.
hey, I love it.
Yeah, you've been a steamroller of productivity in the last month, Fred. Just one thing after another.
It snowed. I had nothing else to do. You can't play golf in the snow.
Wow. We need to break your club so you can get more done during the summer too.
No. I've
Um,
been meaning to ask Derek whether the golf course came out of chapter 61. I think it was going to, but I don't remember if it did or not.
They have, they've let it expire. So as of July 1, the 1-year clock starts on what they, on basically the time limit for them to convert the property without any sort of penalties or the town having the option to purchase it. So, so they've taken it out. That's.
The town of Acushnet bought the Acushnet River Valley Golf Course, and they've done a great job. I think the town ought to buy the golf course. I like it. That's me, sorry.
I'd
Well-
vote for it, but I don't know if the rest of the town would.
Well, it's open space. Think about that.
You bet it is. It's got some
It is.
endangered species on it too.
Yeah.
That's a whole can of worms to talk about.
Yeah, it is.
Property.
Yeah.
We already know how the town in general felt about the formal hospital site, and we got some direct data about that in the survey.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty strong opinions about potential industrial uses near residences. And then of course the perspective of it easily could be converted into a mass residence situation, which would also have negative consequences. So it's a can of worms that maybe we should devote some time to talking in greater detail in the near future.
Yes.
Yep.
So Fred, what is Acushnet run it as a golf course still?
They bought the golf course. It's owned by Acushnet, the town.
And they
And
rent.
there's
yeah.
an organization that runs it. I don't know who they are. I
That's
played golf
fascinating
there.
revenue stream. Huh.
Yeah, I played golf there many times. It's a beautiful golf course.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's not such a bad way to make some money. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Anything else about the open space plan, or should we continue to other topics?
I think we should continue. I think we beat this horse to today
So-
anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things to
Invigorated this horse.
There's a lot of things actually. One of them I'd like to bring attention to is some great work that Fred has done. I don't think you brought this up yet, but what I want to do is share the screen again. It's about the properties list, the 1320 properties.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, I'm already sharing my screen. That's why. Okay. Let me move this over. And so without actually reading the whole thing, would you want to give some context about what this document is?
Well, I think I remember shortly after I joined the committee, we got a note saying, take a look at the 1320 properties which are undevelopable and see if any of those are worth becoming open space. And those are the ones that I looked at that I thought, they were large enough to be substantial and make a dent in our open space. But I don't know what has to happen with the town to make those properties total open space. Does the town need to buy those? Do we need to contact those owners and ask them if they'll put them into a conservation restriction? Because there are opportunities in those towns, and I've listed each one. I've written a paragraph about the particular property, where its location is, what it borders, what the value of the property is. And I actually pulled it from that GIS thing that Madam had up earlier, and put a picture of the map in this document as well. So I thought people could take a look at it and see what they thought.
Right. So without going into each of them, and I think if anyone hasn't seen this yet, you should take a look. Are there any properties in particular you'd like to just discuss? Maybe one of them that stands out in your mind?
Is Joan
well,
here? Is Joan here?
can't-
Because one of the properties mentioned does belong to Joan. And if you could move down to find it, maybe she'll come back on. I don't know.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
But it should be noted that that property, once again, how are you defining open space? This is open space. Now, the family was generous enough to put a conservation restriction on I think it's, I forget how many acres.
32.
No, there's more than that. The total thing is larger.
Oh, right.
But they have already put a very large restriction, and I don't think she's got 14 acres left. That's not restricted.
I did this before Joan did that, actually. So
No,
that's
you
why-
did not. No, she's had that conservation restriction on before you came here.
But doesn't she have something going with Wildlands Trust?
They may be the ones that hold the restriction, but
Yeah.
it's been in place for a long time, Fred.
Well, you're right, but that's one of the properties that I think is important, and we ought to make sure it's listed as open space in that table.
Well, it is actually listed in table 8.
In
So
the
these are
2000
13, sorry to interrupt you, but these are 1320 code properties that may or may not be listed as open space, but you're looking at 1320 properties.
Right, and 1320 is, I think, listed as undevelopable land, isn't it? Yeah, undevelopable. So you would think that, and I agree with, and I probably put Jones on here for whatever reason, because it was in the list at one point. I think I got the data from somebody.
Mhm.
But you're right, that property has been put in as a conservation restriction. But these others are still undevelopable, so why can't we do something about putting conservation restrictions on them? I don't
Right.
know.
Well, the question is, what is the benefit of what is the benefit to the owner for doing so? If I owned a 32-acre parcel and it was code 1320, but I didn't have a conservation restriction on it yet, what can the town, what leverage does the town have to persuade someone to protect it?
Well, if you put it as a conservation restriction, it gets taxed at a different rate. Right?
So that's regardless of its Chapter 61 status, because I believe you can have Chapter 61 and get a tax break. You could
Yes.
also get a conservation restriction and potentially a tax break, but those are potentially independent or additive.
Frankly, I don't know, Adam.
Okay.
I hate to be annoying, but I'm curious as to what the definition of undevelopable is. Because it might be undevelopable if the person who might want to buy it from me isn't related to me. But if the person who might want to develop it is my son and doesn't care that he has to share a driveway with me, then it is developable. So I'm kind of curious where what the definition of 1320 is.
My understanding of that is that it is a property that is on an undersized lot or is in some way violating zoning or would have to violate a building code in order to be developed. Like you can't put a house in a wetland, that kind of thing. So, Mark, is that your understanding also?
I'm not sure how they determine undevelopable. I mean, clearly, if it's all 100% wetlands, it cannot be developed. But if a portion of it's wetlands or you have to cross a wetland to get to the upland portion, it's not necessarily undevelopable. So again, I don't know exactly how they determine this. I mean, if a property needs a variance because it doesn't have enough frontage, they might call it undevelopable, but it might be able to get a variance. So, or for other things. So as septic technology improves, formerly undevelopable properties, could be developed. So I think the assessor's office is right next door to mine, so I can go ask them about how they define undevelopable.
Mhm.
And, it may just be for, the assessor's office themselves, when they look at the land, they make their own decision, which may or may not be, and it's for tax reasons, not necessarily for anything else. So,
I think this is important because I think there's a reason why we were pointed in this direction. I think that these pieces of property at the time were undevelopable and they're relatively decently sized. And perhaps the owners could go either way if the land somehow, with like technology, made the land actually developable. They could possibly go that way, but if we can get there prior to that happening and convince them it may be a conservation restriction, or if we can get the plan done and we can get a grant, or if a CPA passes. So we probably also want to look at these properties and see which ones are, like using the map, the Audubon map that Adam's shown us before, to see which ones are the most valuable to approach and save, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I actually have done that already. So we created our list of priority properties by essentially deferring to the Audubon Society's criteria, just to make sure that, they've taken into consider everything more than I would have. So adjacency to other things, lot size, resilience to climate change, the fact that there may be vulnerable species on the land. So lots of things more than I ever would have thought of. And so I cross-checked the list of undevelopable properties with the list of priority properties from that source, and there was very little overlap. I believe there was one parcel that there was some interest in. And I don't want to misremember the details, but I can surface that again and send it to Fred. Hey, if my thought process at that time, being new to the committee, was that anything that we were going to do would require funds, essentially, that we were going to purchase something to protect it. But if that's not the case, and we can show a property owner the benefits of putting a conservation restriction on, and that wouldn't require resources from the town, then it perhaps doesn't matter that it's not on a priority list, and maybe more protected space is better regardless of whether it's on that list or not. So that's kind of where I came from, and we don't have to spend too much more time on this, but I do think that, Fred, we can revisit this again, because it's a great list you put together, and we shouldn't just put it aside.
I'll take a look at it again myself. I was reading the town master plan, and a town master plan has a goal to provide, develop a fund for the open space to purchase open space for the town. So I don't know how they're going to do that, but that's in the town master plan. Establish a fund to purchase property as open space. I can't remember the exact words.
Yeah, the CPA would help.
The CPA is the way of funding that. So, I mean, that's an important piece to really begin to learn to implement this plan once it gets finalized and approved is with CPA funds. Not only because the funds can be used to match grants for land acquisition, for park improvements, for some of the recreation land, for trail expansions, that kind of stuff. So I think that would be great to have, because I don't think there are any other funds.
Yeah.
All right. So in the interest of time, we'll keep moving on. There was a string of emails that I saw in the last month that I want to talk about. One of them referenced state land on Bridge Street. I believe that you were all CC'd on that thread from Patrick Marshall. I just wanted to raise the topic. If we can talk about it to whatever extent we want to, is this something worth discussing today?
My comment on that is, I don't know what we can do about it.
I think Fred's right.
It's going to be, somebody's going to win a grant to farm it, I think,
Yes, yes.
which is good. I mean, it's a good thing.
So can we just summarize what's happening here? It's Lakeville it's land in Lakeville that is owned and managed by the state of Massachusetts, and they are auctioning off the use of that land?
For agriculture, yes.
Right.
Okay, well, if it stays in agriculture, then you could argue that's quite a good thing, because it's staying as open space land for the town.
Yep.
It would seem to me the only action that we could possibly take about that is just to let the state know that we're very glad that they have this resolved.
Your audio just muffled. Sorry, could you say that again, Mike?
The only action I can think of that we could take was to let the state know that we are glad, we want it to stay in agriculture, and we do appreciate their intent to keep it that way. Whatever agency is in charge of this, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, I'll leave that to Patrick and yourself if you wanted to let your voice be heard. But it doesn't sound like there's anything requiring our action. I scheduled us to talk about the definition of open space. We've talked about this a couple times, and my personal opinion is this would probably be better defined in the context of sitting down and discussing it within the open space plan, because then we can kind of word craft the definition rather than philosophize about it right now. But is there anything anyone wanted to bring up about the definition that we go with?
I'm curious what Mark's take is on definitions of open space, like where Salisbury and where Brockton went, because it sure is wide ranging here.
Well, I mean, it encompassed a little bit of everything that falls under open space and recreation plan. So in both communities, we looked at everything. So when I was in Salisbury, we were just beginning. I had received a grant to do some former rail beds conversion to trails. Now, after 20 years, they've continued, the trails extend from the Merrimack River by Newburyport all the way up to Seabrook to the north, and then toward the west into Amesbury. So they've completed the sections within with this whole series of grants over the last 20 years. So it includes everything, I think everything such as trails to active recreation to acquisition of open space to for passive recreation and for wildlife, preservation, of habitats. So, and in all those communities, Brockton, not so much the wildlife habitat, though there were some isolated areas along some of the small rivers, streams that ran through that were put into the plan as identified as pieces to protect or to improve because a lot of them are affected by the urbanization around them. So even in a city, there were natural open areas that we were trying to protect. There was a farm that was discussed as far as trying to get the agricultural land preserved. It hadn't been preserved, and over the years they had sold off little pieces here and there for housing. So even in a big city, there was a lot of the things that you're looking at, this particular committee, but here we shouldn't forget about active recreation fields. I know there's I've got a capital plan that area put together that includes some improvements for the active recreation facilities in town. So yeah, so that's kind of why I think it should be wide ranging and cover a little bit of everything that we have here. And in every community, you have a little bit of everything. You just need to, these plans are supposed to kind of bring what you have forth and what you identify what you need more of. And so that you can set that direction for, do you need more fields? Do you need more courts because there's not enough basketball courts, or there's no volleyball courts, and you have a influx like in Brockton of people playing from Central America, and they play a lot of volleyball, and there were no real constructed courts. So that was something that was identified, and we spent money on building volleyball courts. So that these plans help bring all that information up, and then we put it together. So
the thing that got us going on this definition had to do with, for example, if there's open to the public or not. Should open space be defined as land that is open to the public or not open to the public? And so we got into a discussion about that. And then it got discussion about, well, should there be any structures or buildings on it? And we said, well, open space should not have any buildings on it. But Gary brought up that Betty's Neck has a building on it. So that's kind of considered open space. So we got into this issue of how deep do we want to go into open space? We want to list absolutely everything that we could think of that should be considered open space, or we just want to make it generically simple and small. I found one that said open space is undeveloped land that's protected by legislation, period. I mean, that's a simple definition of open space, but it doesn't mean that if somebody has a piece of property and they want to keep it as a piece of property and they never want to have a building put on it, that could be open space, but it's not protected by legislation. So it got into this whole issue of how deep do we want it to go into what is open space? Because if somebody wants to come to us and say, well, what do you consider open space? Do we have a definition? Well, we got into that issue and it got all kind of discombobulated, and we're still, I don't think we still agree amongst our team as to how we should pursue that. That's where this all got messed up. So, and maybe we don't, and maybe it's my fault, by the way, because I'll take responsibility. I raised the subject and maybe it should be, they should say, hey, Ferdima, forget about it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
do you really need a definition of open
That-
space for this
that-
committee? I mean, as far as putting a plan together, you have to follow a guidance document, and that includes a whole wide range of uses for land.
Yeah,
Open space land, recreation land, active uses, passive uses, whether there's buildings, whether it's bathrooms or parking areas, that's all allowed. So, so I don't know whether you really need to have a definition.
Right now on the Open Space Committee webpage through the town, it says the work of the Open Space Committee is focused on the preservation of open space, cultural and natural resources.
Right, but you're also working on a plan that includes recreation and active recreation.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that's what we've got posted right now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, maybe we should, discuss this in the context of writing the plan where, someone can propose a definition and we can tweak it. And in that way we can make minor revisions until we're happy. I think that might be one way of going about it.
I'll take another crack.
And I guess just because we're discussing it in the context of the plan itself, I'm sure the open space workbook probably has a definition in it somewhere or a guideline that we can at least start from, because if the workbook is what's making us do the plan, then perhaps that would be a nice, logical.
Yeah, I did look there, Adam, they don't have one. The workbook doesn't have one. I looked, that's where I looked. One of the places I looked.
Okay, moving forward, we have just the committee liaisons at this time. But before I go to that, because that's kind of one of the last things, does anyone have anything that I didn't bring up? As a matter of fact, I think there is. Liz, didn't you want to bring up the website?
I did, but I'm not getting the feeling that anybody's actually taken the time to look at it. I have to look at things so I can understand. But then there's also Mike and Fred and I have met, and we're kind of feeling like it wouldn't be such a bad thing to try to link some documents to our page of the website right away, so people know that we're working on the plan and that the plan is coming, and they can look at these bits and pieces, as opposed to, waiting until we get the plan done and then just like throwing it up there. Plus, as far as design is concerned, we obviously have to have a place where the entire plan will be attached, much like it is right now. However, that's not super usable because your general average person isn't going to go and read our entire plan. What they want is the bits that are interesting to them. And so that page would be a little bit more lively in that it would have direct links to maps of where the open space is and definition of open space or what's coming up, maybe the CPA stuff. I just don't want to dive on there and just start willy-nilly adding things that I think should be up there. I think it should be something that the committee has looked at and made a decision about. I know, Mike, there was a couple of things you wanted me to get up there right away. Can you?
There were three things.
Your sound is really bad, Mike.
Is this better?
Sit closer to the microphone.
When I get closer,
There we go.
that's better?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Oh, I had thought that there were some sections that are complete enough so we could put them up as they are, saying it is a draft. For instance, I thought that the wildlife section could go up, and I mean, I would be more than happy to tell people on Lakeville, helping Lakeville. And guess what? If you go to the town website, you can find a list of all the wild animals and birds and fish and stuff that we think are in Lakeville. So this is a draft that's going to be a part of our open space plan. But we thought you might like to read it now. I mean, right now, a lot of people post in Lakeville, helping Lakeville, about the animals they see. So I thought that's one that could go up. We have, and I think that maybe springtime is a better time to put the one on the flora, because right now people don't always see the beauty of the winter flora. But anyway, the other thing is that we have that document that is that Ken Leonard created, which actually is a bit of a tedious read, but it is kind of fun just to kind of read through quickly. Because it does talk about the complications of all of what happened with Betty's Neck, all because he has traced back all the lineage of Native Americans that owned that property and lived there. I think we kind of forget that the Native Americans did not leave this area. They were still here. They were living as integrated with European heritage people.
What else, Mike? Other items?
Yeah, there were those. Actually, the history a section that has been updated and read over. So that section could go up now. But those three sections of the plan, as well as
the survey result. And the survey
results. Okay.
Right.
It would seem to me that maybe instead of just putting them all up at once, maybe like once a week, we could say there's another one coming up.
Just my personal opinion, and it's only mine. I don't think we should put up pieces of the plan until we have the whole plan done, but that's just me. A caveat to that is the survey that was done was put out to the town already, and Adam put that section together very nicely, and there's a lot of graphics in that. That would be my only exception. I would think that could go in there because that's the result of what the town voted, provided. Other than that, I don't think we should put the pieces in there until the whole thing's done. But that's just my feeling. I'm only one.
The plan is so long, people are kind of overwhelmed by it. And that's why I thought if we could get people interested by feeding them little tidbits, they would be more likely to read the rest of the plan when it's put together.
Yeah, and Fred, I think we're a little invisible.
My opinion.
I think the Open Space Committee is kind of invisible. And I'm not even sure that people actually visit the website, but I think there's a chance that they might visit the website looking for information if they're curious or something comes up in conversation. And there's nothing to find there right now. And that bothers me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Make a good point.
Well, that's what bothers me. I want them to be
Okay.
able to find something,
Well, what we can do as a compromise in the meantime is we can put the survey results up. There's a slideshow that I created. We can also include a link to the meeting where I went through the results, and let's see if that catches on, and if so, we can add more, and if not, well, then we can spend our efforts elsewhere.
So there is design issues, as always. I mean, the software that they use obviously has some restrictions, but there are some design issues. So if you can go and look at the page and then just, should everything be running down the left-hand side? Should there be a new block that says, check out what the Open Space Committee has been up to? Like what, just give me a little feedback because I like feedback. Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Let's see. All right. In that case, we'll continue going on to the liaison section. You don't have Brian for the Historical Commission. You do have Mike for the APC.
APC, I don't have anything at this point to report. However, included in that would be the steering committee for the Nemasket River enhancement. And there are I was in the process just before I had to sign on for the meeting of sending you a link that will give you the public meetings that they're having. Some of them are supposed to be partly in person and as well as online. And I think there's one coming up fairly soon. I'm sorry that I didn't get myself organized enough so that we missed some of the beginning, some of the public meetings that they did. But the public meetings tend to be, they focus on not what the steering committee is doing, but what the various groups that are studying the river have come up with. And so there's a lot of interesting information, and I will send those links out to you tonight.
Great. And while we have you talking, how about any updates from the future Community Preservation Committee?
Well, the group that's trying to get it passed on the ballot is working very hard. There's a group of about 5 women that are incredible. They are just, they're working so hard. They have a flyer prepared and a flyer announcing an event in March, which we will be circulating. And there also is a brochure reminding people of that we will probably give to a targeted audience rather than try to get it all over town, because we really want to reach the people who are likely to vote. So and there's a Facebook page.
Okay.
I wish we had a great big banner that we could hang across the main street, but we don't.
Right. And to my memory, the election is in early April. Is that right?
It is in April. I always forget the date, but
Maybe when the snow melts, we'll see more of the street signs that used to be.
oh yes, they will put those up again. It's the 4th of April.
The 4th of April.
Yes.
All right. And hopefully if anyone's interested in the CPA, they'll make sure that they are registered to vote.
Yeah, just one further comment about that. One of they were going to have an event at the grounds of around Loon Pond Lodge, but they ran into some issues because we are the CPA group is right now a sort of a political group as opposed to representing the town. So they can't use, they have to pay to use facilities. And of course, the Loon Pond Lodge is not, it is actually leased to, what is it, Boston Tavern, so I forget the name of the company, but so you have to go by their rules as well as the park department rules, and they gave up on that. It got very complicated, but I mean, that's one of the issues. If you have something that you politically want to have happen in town, you cannot use town resources.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else CPA related, or shall we progress?
That's about it.
All right. Fred, anything from the Concom?
No, they've been working on home improvement type projects and, septic designs and nothing significant.
All right. Then the last thing I'd want to do is just to circle back with what Liz was talking about with the website. I have the Open Space Committee website up on the screen. I hope you can see that. Liz, did you want to guide me to what we should be looking for? I know you mentioned taking a look at it.
Well, so starting at the beginning, there's the whole bit right smack dab in the middle. So does that need updating, shortening, or because, so if you, as a new resident to the town or as somebody who's never seen it before, start to read it, it's pretty obvious it's old and dusty and moldy.
Yeah, it references the 2001 Open Space Plan.
Right off the bat, it looks like nobody's paying attention.
Wow, the internet.
So there's,
in 2001.
so there's that first piece right there we need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this design is actually based on the entire website. Each page looks similar, so that there's a consistency to the entire town of Lakeville's website. It's cool. The open space surveys over there on the left. Honestly, I just looked at this myself, a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, look at that. but it
Well, this
talks
is actually where you
bingo,
could take
bingo,
this.
all of this stuff, right?
So we'll
So
fix
it's
that.
either going and getting somebody at town hall to update it all, or it's me learning how to do it, and you, Adam, because I think that would be good if two of us knew how to use it. And going in and updating it, and then keeping it updated when things happen that we think should go on the website. So, right. So the stuff on the left is pretty, well, it's not great either. So first of all, the whole page, just like our plan, needs updating. The stuff on the right, there's nothing we can do about that. I believe that's repetitive from but look at the minutes.
Yeah.
Whoa, March 3rd. Yeah. So,
That's the lesson.
right.
Wow. Whew.
So there it is. There's that. I don't know if,
Right.
so Adam, if you wanted to write a little paragraph about what you'd like when you click the open space survey bit,
Right.
what you'd like it to say, and then we'll put the
Mhm.
link in there to the results, another link to the, if you'd like to, when you read the results. That was an interesting suggestion. The open space plan, the open space committee is currently actively rewriting the you know what I mean?
Right.
Here's the one from 2012, back in the day. And this is fine. I think that this has to exist somewhere with the whole plan, because there's people that learn that way or want to read that way too. And this will remain until it's updated. But I just thought that maybe on the front page too, we could add, once we've cleaned it up a little bit right now, just so that it's more current, maybe we can, that stuff on the left doesn't have to be quite that long, and or below it, there's still space on this page where we could be like, map of the open spaces in Lakeville, put on your sneakers and grab the dog. You know what I'm trying to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, eventually trail maps would be great to have here.
Right, exactly. Stuff like that. And and in the meantime, as we get to a finished plan, it doesn't hurt, it's not hurting anybody to throw in a couple links to, while you're walking around Lakeville, keep your eyes open for, the wildlife section from the plan. It's part of the plan, but it's interesting. Or maybe a modified version of that, Fred. I don't know, maybe not exactly the piece that's coming from the plan, but something. Just to get people involved in open space in town too.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop talking.
I have a question about this site. I had thought that it was possible to have a lot of links, and it looks like you only have, if you've got to have all of those little blue buttons, and there's not enough room for all of those. Can you also, you can't build links into the text anywhere, can you?
I don't know.
Yeah, you can.
Probably.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we can definitely go back and forth on this, Liz. I'd be happy to communicate with you via email about ways to update this. We can take this offline and maybe show it off next month or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, while I'm thinking of it, the trail map is one that could go on. The trail map of Betty's Neck. Another brochure, that little brochure though, I mean.
Right.
I had scanned the trail map from Betty's Neck at the library, and the old one. It's really quite, I think
So
it's still very usable.
There's a digital copy you have access to?
Yeah, I emailed it to Fred and Mike. I can actually email it to everybody if you like.
Yeah, great. That way I won't get lost.
Copy.
All right. So we've gone through a lot today, and I really appreciate the time, Mark, to join us, and I look forward to working with you on this plan. I think we're really going to be able to together push it.
No, that's great. I do have a couple of questions. So one is, could you add me to your email list?
Absolutely.
That I can get, copies, and I can begin to track what you're working on and what questions are going on. And then the other thing is, can you send me the information about that state property? I don't know where it is, and I'm just curious about that.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and then moving forward, I can probably find out who at town hall, because I have to put up a planning department webpage and I want to put links to a bunch of stuff. So there's one lady here who said, help me. I don't know if she's the official webpage person. Kim, she's now, well, she's been a floater, but I think she's now going to be working in the clerk's office, but I will talk to her tomorrow. If that helps to move and help us get stuff posted onto your page as well. So I can do that, and I'll give you my phone number because it's a public phone number if I can find it. So if you want to call me, number here is, in my office is 774-766-4350.
Great.
And email is mresnick@lakevillemA.org.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, we will we'll keep you informed on all of the open space plan and everything else we do. We do want to avoid, meeting quorum by having too many people on chains, but we don't have to worry about that with you. So you'll be inundated with open space messages in no time.
Okay, excellent. I get a question. I noticed Wildlands Trust seems to be the only land trust that kind of covers Lakeville. Have they been active, done anything in particular? Or only when someone wanted to protect some land did they contact them?
I've been in contact with a couple of people. They just recently put a conservation restriction on a very large piece of property just off of Route 44, which was the old nursery. It was a nursery there at one point.
Okay.
And a mink farm.
Mike, do you remember what that was? That location?
Well,
It's down from Mucky's. It's
Yeah,
down
right.
from the liquor store.
Yeah, I'll see if I can dig something out and send it to you, Mike.
Okay.
Mark.
there actually should be something there. There should be something that mentions that in the plan as well, because that is there's a place where that ought to go. So for background information. So I wish that you would tell me just write a few sentences about it that I could. Well, when we meet, I'll show you the place in the plan where I think it's needed.
Okay, but Mark, the Conservation Commission just reviewed that and voted on it maybe last month.
Okay.
So it must be in the minutes of the Conservation Commission not that long. I'll see if I can dig back through my files if I can find anything.
I've got it right here. I'll CC you.
Okay,
I'm not going to bother sharing, but I am CCing it, so you should have that, Mark.
Okay, and I just got a note that actually my assistant here in the planning department, she can do, Kathy Murray can will be able to help with the webpage. So okay, so just call us and we'll get it done. Whatever you want put up there.
That's cool. Thanks.
wow, right.
How's that for?
Yeah.
For service?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So with that,
Thank you.
I think we've covered everything. Is there anything I've forgotten?
Nope,
All right.
not that I can think of.
Would anyone like to move to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second. Mike.
Any final discussion?
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Nice to meet all of you.
Nice
And
to meet you.
Meet
we'll
you.
see you at the next meeting or sooner.
All right, well, let's have a final roll call vote. Aye to adjourn. Liz,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Mike,
Bye.
and myself, aye. Unanimous will adjourn. We'll all talk.